Good morning and welcome to the weekly multi-platform service of Tri-County Unitarian Universalists based in Summerfield, Florida. We acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the indigenous Florida peoples. I'm Trish Schwartzberg, today's service leader. Hello to our members and friends, and a special welcome to anyone who may be visiting us here for the first time. We're glad to have you, and if you're interested, we'll give you a chance to say hello at the end of the service. We are beginning to welcome back some of our snowbirds. I see Jolynn and Steve are back. Who else is back from summer? Anybody else? Nope. It's good to see you back. Unitarian Universalists are united not by a creed of shared beliefs, but by a covenant of shared values. We celebrate that we do not have to think alike to love alike. It is our respect and encouragement of each other's diversity of thought that truly binds us together. For the curious and the seekers, Unitarian Universalist values and covenant may be found in your order of service or at our website, triuu.org, triuu.org. Our newsletter, which is also there, it's under news on the top things, as well as our calendar is there under news and events. We have announcements, but please turn off those dinky little cell phones. They always bug us. Reverend Christina, our regular minister, I should say, not normal, whatever that means, will be here next Sunday. Don't tell her I said that. Unfortunately, Marie Lejunac has had to step down as our newspaper editor due to health concerns. The new newsletter contact person is Lenore Mickelson. Lenore, I think I saw you here. There you are. Hi, Lenore. Thank you for stepping up. That's a big job. Please send her your newsletter transmissions for the November newsletter by October 23rd. This is a new one for us, at least since I've been here. Deb Anderson is hosting a rustic fall and Halloween camping trip at Lake in the Forest Resort on October 28th through 30th. That's coming up soon, so if you're interested, be sure to get in touch with Deb. She'll be at one of the tables around here after the service, so you can get more information. Deb, are you here? Where are you? There you are, Deb. Stand up so everybody can see you. Deb's a fairly new member that's jumping right in to give us a shot in the arm for some good fun. That sounds good. Join us on November 1st here at Tri-UU. The welcoming congregation is rolling out the rainbow carpet and inviting you to our first and fabulous Tri-UU Pride. We're inviting all LGBTQIA and allies for celebration and community. All you have to bring is your support. Let Liz Perdue, right up here in the front, know if you're interested. One hint, snacks will be served. 2 hints, there will be some fun, childlike kind of fun things to do too. So bring your inner child. Our Thanksgiving potluck and fellowship is things are busy. Coming up on Thursday, November 27th at 2 p.m. here in Tri-UU. We need somebody to cook the turkey. I've been doing it for the last 5 years, and I said no. So somebody else can say yes this year. We do need at least 1 turkey of a good size, and depending on how many sign up, we might have to divide that into 2 and let 2 people cook turkeys. Otherwise, we have to buy those things that are already cooked for us, and they just not as good. Okay, please sign up and sheet behind the AV tape. This concludes our announcements, and as we now begin the service proper, we will recite our vision statement. Please join with your voice as we recite together. We will be an influential voice for progressive religious values in a diverse community. Our chalice keeper today is Pat Felton. We invite those of you joining us on Zoom to light your own chalice.
These words are from Rumi. Listen with ears of tolerance, see through the eyes of compassion, speak with the language of love.
We are delighted to have with us this morning Kathy Schmidt. The Reverend Kathy Schmitz, say it right, is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. Over the last 25 years, she has served congregations in Massachusetts, Texas, Miami, and Orlando as both a settled and interim parish minister. Most recently, she served as a senior minister of First Unitarian Church of Orlando for over 8 years. I think that's where I first met Kathy. Since stepping down 7 years ago, she has served a number of congregations as guest speaker, sabbatical minister, and as a consultant. She is currently serving as the president of the League of Women Voters of Orange County. Reverend Kathy describes herself as an eco-humanist, strongly influenced by Buddhist practice and teaching. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Trish. Our invitation to centering this morning comes from Reverend Jack Mendelson. Here, in this sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to grow, to be healed, to be challenged, to be renewed, to stretch mind and heart, to be helped in our own continuing struggles for meaning and love, to help build a world with more justice and mercy in it, to be counted among the hopers and the doers. In the face of cynicism, darkness, brutality around us and within us, we seek to align ourselves with a living community that would affirm rather than despair, that would think and act rather than simply adjust and succumb. Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it to give us the nerve and the grace, the toughness and the sensitivity to search out the truth that frees and the life that makes all things new. Our opening hymn will be Amazing Grace, and it's one of the most popular hymns in the English-speaking world. The song and its author, John Newton, have a long and winding history. For our purposes today, I'd just like you to know that John Newton went from rebellious youth to sailor, to involvement in the slave trade, to Anglican clergy, to abolitionist. Many clergy of his time, and we're talking here about England in the late 1700s, preached from a distance. That means they shared very little of themselves when they spoke. Newton, however, is said to have been plain spoken and regularly spoke of his own past, his struggles with faith, and his progress forward and his sliding back. Of his times on the ships carrying enslaved people, he wrote, "It will always be a subject of humiliating reflection to me that I was once an active instrument in a business at which my heart now shudders." I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing Amazing Grace. Job there. See, it's a popular song. Many of you knew the fourth verse anyway. So I've chosen two readings for this time that they're help talk about some of the words, a couple of the words that I'm going to use today. So we begin with grace. While the concept of grace seems to exist in some form in many of the world's traditions, a lot of people in our culture are most familiar with it from a broadly Christian understanding. So I'd like to share Paul Tillich's perspective in his writing, Struck by Grace. Tillich was a German and American Lutheran theologian and philosopher, and he's considered one of the most influential theologians of the 20th century. Now, he's a theologian. His words are a little thick, so here's the Cliff Note version before I set in. Grace has three parts. Sometimes life is hard, but sometimes grace and acceptance break through, and when it does, we are transformed. Okay? So here are his words. Grace strikes us when we are in great pain and restlessness. It strikes us when we walk through the dark valley of a meaningless and empty life. It strikes us when we feel that our separation is greater than usual because we have violated another life, a life which we loved or from which we are estranged. It strikes us when our disgust for our own being, our own indifference, our own weakness, our hostility, our lack of direction and composure have become intolerable to us. It strikes us when year after year, the longed for perfection of life does not appear, when the old compulsions reign within us as they have for decades, when despair destroys all joy and courage. But sometimes, at that moment, a wave of light breaks into our darkness, and it is as though a voice were saying, "You are accepted. You are accepted by that which is greater than you and the name of which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now, perhaps you will find it later. Do not do anything now, perhaps later you will do much. Do not seek anything, do not perform anything, do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted." If this happens to us, we experience grace. And after such an experience, we may not be better than before, we may not believe more than before, but everything is transformed. In that moment, grace conquers sin, and reconciliation bridges the gulf of estrangement, and nothing is demanded of this experience. No religious or moral or intellectual presupposition, nothing but acceptance. Here ends the reading. So again, life can be hard, yet at times it is infused with grace so that we understand truly and deeply that we are accepted and thus are transformed. The second voice I'd like to share comes from the National Association for the Advancement of Color People, NAACP. And it concerns the origins and ongoing use of the term woke. And it's more plain spoken, but a little longer, but it has some important history in it. And it's a resolution, an NAACP resolution from 2023, titled Reclaiming the Word Woke as Part of African American Culture. Whereas Black history is a critical aspect of American history and has shaped culture, including the evolution of language, and whereas the words wake up and woke have served as a call to action as conveyed by social activist Marcus Garvey, who stated, "Wake up, Ethiopia, wake up, Africa." And the Negro mine workers who in 1940 issued the statement, "We were asleep, but we will stay woke from now on," in advocating against discriminatory pay. And whereas the term woke was first highlighted in a 1962 essay, "If You're Woke, You Dig It," featured in the New York Times by Harlem-based writer William Melvin Kelly, who documented the cultural appropriation and distortion of language, resulting in certain idioms being abandoned by their original Black creators. Whereas the term woke has been similarly misused as traditionally and white-focused media have reframed woke as a trendy new slang, eroding its cultural connection and separating the term from the historical grounding in social justice. And whereas, we're getting there, whereas 6 decades later, anti-Black racists have engaged in a similar exercise of cultural appropriation to weaponize and misdefine the term woke, as evidenced by the Stop Woke Act, specifically targeting the teaching of American history and Black educators. Whereas Black educators are more likely to teach subjects that incorporate an inclusive view of history, and legislation like the Stop Woke Act threatens the free speech and livelihood of teachers and the quality of education received by all students, most recently, students in Florida. Therefore, be it resolved that the NAACP affirms the term woke and its historical connection to Black history, Black liberation, and social justice. Be it further resolved that the NAACP, through its unit, encourages a historically accurate and correct use of the term woke when its misuse is identified. And finally, be it resolved that the NAACP condemns cultural appropriation, misuse of Black idioms, and the specific efforts by anti-Black racists to distort and define the term woke. Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Kathy. As we move deeper into our service, let us turn inward to consider transitions, the joys, sorrows, and concerns that we all experience along life's journey. There are 3 bowls of stone up here on the front table, each of them different colors representing the gratitude of joy, the grief of sorrow, and the hope of concern. After those present have placed stones in the water, our ushers will place stones from each of the bowls into the water on behalf of those not physically present and those who have chosen or are not able to come forward. Those online are invited to type into the chat to express what is in your heart. When all the stones have been mingled in the water and all have shared, we'll take a moment for silent meditation or prayer. As the sound of the bells brings us back into community, we will sing our response, voice still and small. You may now come forward.
For the this year chosen and on the 5th. And she said I had been
Let us now take a short time for our own meditation and thoughts, joys and concerns, and reflect on those of ours and others. We will now receive our morning offering. If you're visiting us for the first time, please don't feel obligated to put money into our basket as it comes around. You're our guest today, and we're just glad you're here. This is the time in our service when those of us who do wish to make some monetary contribution to give support to this community and its outreach. If you are putting cash in the basket that you want credited to a particular thing, especially your pledge, please put the cash in a brown envelope with your name on it. Envelopes are available on the table at the back of the sanctuary. I invite the ushers to come forward now.
Thank you all for being here this morning. You could still be home, in bed, asleep. Instead, you are here in this sanctuary or online, maybe still in bed, but you're awake, or at least partially. The waking up process can be hard, literally and figuratively. People have joked that for Unitarian Universalists, coffee is a sacrament, perhaps symbolic of the waking up process. I hope that those of you who need it, like I do, have had a little caffeine before you arrived this morning. Seems like it would be beneficial to get people at least semi-conscious before tossing a set of new ideas at them. But both sleeping and waking are a normal part of the human existence, though we all do it differently. I'm a morning person. Anybody else? Yeah, the not morning people aren't here, right? No, my husband is not a morning person, so that's probably some of you as well. But there's all kinds of things in between, right? We're different, but we all, I think, like to wake well rested. Being well rested, to me, seems to be the trick to waking gracefully. But some people don't want to wake, gracefully or otherwise. They don't want to get woke. And I do wonder if those people are somehow not well rested and what we could do to help with that. We'll get to that. For some time now, I've been listening to the rhetoric in our culture and wondering what exactly the problem is with being woke. Of course, at one level, like the NAACP resolution calls out, it's that the term has been weaponized. But I bet some of those who respond to that weaponization sometimes sing Amazing Grace. With gusto, the words come out. I once was lost and now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. They sing of the gift, the amazing gift of grace that widens their perspective and gives them greater insight and understanding. And yet, not woke. I will pause here to note that one of the insights that I have from my life's greater understanding is that some disability activists find the line, was blind, but now I see, ableist, implying that a blind person is somehow less than whole and in need of correction, implying that they need to be fixed rather than accepted as they are. Now, others in the disability community understand it as a metaphor. As I was digging into this, I found alternative wording. I once was lost, and now I'm found, was bound, but now I'm free. I kind of like that one. I'd be interested to know what you think. For today, I do invite your metaphorical interpretation to say that there are many ways that we can move from not knowing to greater understanding. And while I'm on the topic of words, some of you will notice that we sang the word soul when the traditional language is wretch, right? Saved a wretch like me. Now, wretch is true to Newton's original experience. He was writing about how he used to be, and he considered that wretched. Other people would prefer not to be so harsh. That might be because we have different lived experiences, but the term soul is offered as an alternative in our Unitarian Universalist hymnal singing the living tradition. Some other alternative words are out there, though. One is that saved and set me free, and the other that saved and strengthened me. I kind of like that last one. Anyway, back to our metaphor. The singer says, I went from not knowing to knowing. I went from a narrow perspective to a wider one. And it is clear from this context that this is a gift, not a curse. As I was preparing for today, I considered my own journey from knowing less to knowing more, from at times being a bit clueless to greater understanding. And I have decided that I am not woke. I am awakening. not a binary, but a process, and I'm not done yet. I'm also aware that no matter how much I go from not knowing to knowing, from a narrow perspective to a wider one, there are some things I don't think I will ever truly understand. Things that from my straight, cisgender, white, often privileged perspective, I don't think I will ever really get. I remember my first-hand awareness of racial justice. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. One day, around junior high school age, a friend told me that a Black family had tried to buy a house in town, and the seller received a call, a threat, and they were told that if they sold the house, it would burn. I was horrified. That could not be true. This was at the time when the Boston News Channel that we watch was regularly reporting on the challenges of busing being used to integrate the schools in the city. Some of the abhorrent behavior of the white people were so difficult for me to understand. But that was the city, not my little town. But then I cast my mind around the town and I realized that I was not aware of a single Black family that lived there. So it was possible that my friend's rumor was true. Ouch. As I have attended racial justice training over my life and read and, well, lived, I've collected a series of such moments when something, grace, insights, or being hit over the head, increased my perspective, my knowing, my understanding, and usually I have been grateful. But there have been times when I found it all overwhelming, when I felt exhausted by the challenges, embarrassed that I had not known, weary of that I still did not understand, afraid of making a mistake. The song says, "Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come." Now, my interpretation of this might not be exactly what John Newton was thinking of, but I am comforted that I've come so far. And I'm glad, and in spite of my sometimes whining, I would not really choose to go back. And so why would I imagine that I will regret any future learning that I have? 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Grace is variously understood, but I think of it as unearned blessings, a gift or an opportunity, something I did nothing to deserve, but I got anyway. Now, sometimes this can get very tangled up with my understanding of privilege, which, as I have acknowledged, I have a lot of, and there is probably another whole sermon about that. In fact, I think in the process of working on this sermon, I came up with about half a dozen other ones, which I have left on the side. You're welcome. This question of grace, though, always brings me back to a part of my church history class in seminary. There was plenty at the Christian institution that I, as a non-Christian, just kind of went, wasn't that interesting? But I was really intrigued by the concept prominent in early American religion of means of grace. Now, that's a term that still gets used in some tradition. Anybody come from a tradition that talked about means of grace? Okay. So it addresses of what one would do if one wanted to receive grace. Now, since grace is a free gift, you can't earn it. Good works won't do the trick. But you could open your heart and your mind using means of grace. What exactly is meant by this term varied from religious tradition to tradition, but it could include reading the sacred text, the teachings, sacraments, rituals. I think for some of us today, it might include meditation or other spiritual practices. I think gardening, walking in the woods might bring you a moment of grace. Now, participating in these things did not guarantee an experience of grace, but it put you in a responsive and a receptive attitude and posture. Said another way, it helped to ensure that you didn't overlook a blessing that was coming your way. Now, I suspect that this explanation might distress my then professor, but my interpretation had an impact on me. It crystallized in me that I, as I live my life, have the opportunity to put myself in situations in which I have the opportunity to grow and to learn, to deepen and to broaden, to expand my awareness of the world and my place in it. Now, sometimes this was scary. When I chose to move from the Northeast, where I had lived my entire life, I was offered the chance to serve a New Start congregation in Texas that had a contemporary worship style. And I said yes. And I was excited and scared. I knew enough to know I didn't know enough. The hymn says, "'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed." I learned so much that year about Texas culture. Anybody from Texas? Yeah, okay. You know what I mean then. Different communication styles, what it was like to live far away from my family for the first time, and not insignificantly, how to pronounce the letter R. Anybody else from New England? At the end of the year, I was offered the opportunity to do another interim ministry, this time in Miami, with a congregation doing serious diversity work. Was I qualified to do that? Heck no. Did I do it anyway? I sure did. And again, I learned so much about Latino cultures and their diversity, about life in a really big city, and how to roll those R's. In both situations, I learned and grew, and I made a lot of blunders along the way. I asked questions, I read, I screamed into the void at times, wondered why I had put myself in these situations, but in the end, I never regretted them. Those are just two examples. I hope that they help you think about the times in your life when you have been given the opportunity to grow and learn, to deepen and broaden, to expand your awareness of the world and your place in it. We don't have to make interstate moves or change jobs. We can put ourselves in the way of these opportunities by participating in trainings and readings, volunteering outside our comfort zone, simply shopping in a neighborhood different than your own. There are lots of ways. I'll offer one more example from my life, this one pre-seminary, and my own little interpretation of grace. When I was still working as a software engineer, I had an office mate who was a lesbian. Now, I was theoretically open-minded in this area, but I had not really been tested in any significant way. So just getting to know Susan as a person would have been enough. But wait, there's more. One day, Susan and a gay coworker came into our office and closed the door. They wanted to talk to me. There was a controversy at the local high school in the town where I lived. It involved sex ed and LGBT plus acceptance. It had broken out into a community fight, and a public hearing was coming up. My coworkers didn't live in town and so didn't have standing to speak at the meeting. But I did, and not only that, I had children in the school system. They needed me to go speak at the hearings. Me? Inside? I was horrified. That is not a thing I do. Outside, I looked at their faces, and they clearly expected that once I understood the situation, I would agree. So of course I said yes. I did speak at the hearing, and I didn't die. Now I have lost track of the number of hearings I have spoken at, rallies and pride marches I have attended, including two yesterday. Same-sex weddings I have officiated. Now maybe I would have gotten there anyway, but it always seemed like a little grace that Susan and Paul nudged me along the way. Earlier, I suggested that we all like to wake up well-rested. Being well-rested, ready to wake, contributes to waking gracefully. Now, sometimes the opportunity to expand our horizon comes upon us when we are not at our best. We want to go back to sleep, and sometimes we do. Maybe we circle back after we hit the snooze alarm several times. But what are those people who don't want to wake, gracefully or otherwise? They don't want to get woke. Well, what can we do? We can flip on the light and bang pots and pans and scream and shame. And sometimes we will, maybe yesterday. But I don't think they will wake up well. And they may stay cranky for a really long time. But we need them to wake up, because unity means all of us. So maybe there's another approach. Maybe we speak gracefully, with love at the center, surrounded by our values. Maybe we place a cup of coffee or tea next to the bed and let them know a delicious breakfast is waiting. Maybe over breakfast, we don't dwell on the fact that they overslept. No shame, no judgment. And instead, we speak of the wonderful things the day has in store. Perhaps as we receive gifts of grace, we share them with grace. We remember we too have made a journey, and we too will journey on. Maya Angelou is credited with saying, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. My process of awakening continues. The last line in the last verse of our hymnal was not, well, actually the whole last verse was not in the original text, but it was an early addition. And I didn't like it at first, but then I changed one word, and now I do. So it said, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. As I often do, I now render the word God as love, and it's made all the difference. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing love's praise than when we first begun. May we each, in the way that is right for us, keep looking for opportunities to grow and occasions to include. They are around us always, if only we will keep our minds and our hearts open, if only we will put love at the center today, tomorrow, and always. May it be so. Our closing hymn is Wake Now My Senses. We're just singing 3 verses. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
Pat Felton will now read our chalice extinguishing message.
Again from Rumi. Your acts of kindness are iridescent wings of divine love, which linger and continue to uplift others long after your sharing.
Thank you, Pat. At this time, I invite anyone who is visiting us for the first or second or third time and hasn't introduced yourself. If you would like to now at this time, we'd love to greet you and say hello. Over here, raise your hand and an usher will bring a mic to you. Please speak into the microphone or nobody can hear you but you.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hi, I'm Kate. This is my fiance, Liam. It's our first time here. And we heard about this place from a friend. And we just want a place that is accepting. And I'm glad that you guys are accepting. Thank you.
Glad to have you. Welcome. What else today? Anyone online? Nope. Okay, let's move on then. If you would like information about our ongoing events and communications about what's going on around here, please take and fill out a guest card. This is for the guests. They'll be available at the door after the service, or you may have done so before the service. On October 4th, there will be a class for those wanting to learn more about Tri-UU and Unitarian Universalism. Please. Did I say no, October? I'm reading November. It says November right here. I promise you it does. It really does. Okay, November 4th. Sorry. Please sign up at the table at the back of the room. If you can't or don't want to wait till then ask your questions, then see Andrea will be back here where that little table is on the end to ask any questions that you have, or just ask anybody you run into. We all like to talk. Now it's time for some feedback. How are we doing on time? Yes, we have time today. Good. For those, we want to know how you experienced this service with Kathy and what you took away from the sermon. We ask you to keep your comments brief and on topic and not to start into announcements. Those who were virtual on Zoom, please raise your hand virtually and we will get you up here and let you talk too. So don't be ashamed to, or afraid to raise your hand. Please share your name, keep the microphone close to your mouth so we can all hear you, even those on Zoom. And if you want to be seen on the monitor, come up here to where Linda, somewhere along here where Linda and I are standing, so that people can see you on the monitors. And anybody have a question now? Helene back there. Nancy? Helene? Okay, online? Okay. Casey?
Oh, am I ready? Oh, okay.
She was
Reverend, I want you to know when I was listening to you, I said, I couldn't believe that this is ongoing, the truth and compassion that comes from the Unitarian ministers, people like you. I love how you enlighten us with giving us a history, especially the history of words that carry so much energy and empowerment and that can disempower us. On and on I could go about what I've come to love being a Unitarian. So I wanted to make sure I shared that with you, how much I appreciated everything that you shared with us today. Please come back. Thank you.
Aye.
Anyone else? Oh, Maria.
My name is Maria Kelly, and I just want to say I think all of us are in this awakening process forever. So am I. But my awakening kind of accelerated a lot after I joined UU. So I just want to say that one of the graces that I have received was finding TryUU. So thank you, everyone, for your part in the process.
Our newcomer, thank you.
I learned a different way of looking at grace. I really like that. I know I'm not saying much, but I really like having a different outlook on grace, and I like this place is like a different outlook than the regular, like the other Christian churches. I like how you guys are accepting in a different outlook and spirituality, and I learned about grace in a different light, and I like it.
I'd like to throw one comment here too, Cindy, if I may, before you go. I had a horrible time with the word grace. I hated it. I hated that song. I would not sing it until I began to listen to people like Kathy and other people along the way that have shed some light on the word grace. I still kind of cringe when I hear it, but it's not quite as bad. So thank you for adding a little more to my understanding of a different way of holding grace that's not just antithetical to my thought process. Okay.
Thank you so much for also capturing this as a process, because we so often think that we just always knew this stuff. This week I've been really engaged as a former New York City person with the Zohran Mamdani race, and I've been watching all of these videos. I saw the mayoral debate. I watched David Remnick from the New Yorker interview him, a wonderful interview if you could see it. And then this morning, part of my wake-up process is I have to have coffee in the New York Times. And I read a overly long essay, that's one of the reasons I was late this morning, about Mamdani and the idea of Islamophobia. And I'm thinking, how could in this day and age can there be so much Islamophobia? And in the shower, which is part of my wake-up process, I was thinking, you know what? I am as guilty as other people, okay? Because I remember, right, and the article brings the history back to 9/11, and I remember the days after 9/11 in New York City when in my neighborhood, every synagogue and temple was surrounded by barriers, and there were guards at the door, and we were constantly told to be aware, be fearful of people of Islamic religion and descent, and I remember being fearful. We were there in Manhattan when the buildings came down. We smelled, what those buildings and all of the destruction. And one day I was, waiting at the bus stop. I had to take a bus and 3 trains to get home, and I was waiting at the bus stop, and no buses were coming by, and there were like 50 of us, and the women were, a couple of cars of women, Islamic women, Muslim women, were coming, stopping and saying, $1, give you a ride to the train. And my first thought was, this had never happened before, so this must be somehow one of those kidnappings or something that they're doing. And these are young college students I was waiting with. I mean, I really thought, this is something wrong. We have to be careful. And I said it to my African-American colleague. I said, do you think this is legitimate? And she says, Cindy, they're trying to make some money right now in this world where it's very hard to make some money. And then, of course, after she said it, I said, of course, that's true. But that was a wake-up call because we can so easily live in fear. Yesterday, many of us were in fear because we were told that, all the bad people are going to be out there, and so all the MAGA people were going to attack us when we were out there. So part of waking up is to say, all right, fear, sit down for a little minute, and let's wake up outside of that realm of fear. So that's what you made me think of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
I really appreciated what our lovely Reverend had said this morning about getting up in the morning. And one of the things that really struck me is that I'm not a morning person. I'm one of these, night owls that has to stay on the internet until, the blue light really, damages my brain. But anyway, but the thing that I really appreciated is that for me, the experience of getting up in the morning is that I have a chance to really not get up abruptly or not get up right away, but just to stay still and ponder on what the day is going to, look like. And I got this from a famous Buddhist, leader, which name I can't really, pronounce. But anyway, if you get up too abruptly, it sort of disrupts your nervous system, that you just sort of jolt, out of bed and everything. But instead, take the time to appreciate what it feels like to be really alive in the morning, that you're breathing, and especially if the sun is shining, that you can just get your perspective of what the day is going to be like. So I never, want to just feel like when I'm getting up in the morning that I'm just jumping out of bed, unless I have an appointment or something of that nature. But I think it's good that people just take the time to have that moment of awe, to have that moment of awareness. And I just think that if more people would do that, they wouldn't look at the day starting as something, it's going to be horrendous, but to just appreciate the essence of a new day as something that is a chance to grow, a chance to learn, a chance to experience. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the Buddhist teacher you're thinking of Thich Nhat Hanh?
Pardon?
Is the Buddhist teacher you're thinking of Thich Nhat Hanh by any chance? Okay. As you started speaking, I remember he has a beautiful quote about every morning being a new 24 hours that we can begin again. And that, when we have an awakening, we can think of it that way. Like, now we have this new opportunity rather than dwelling on where we used to be. The other thing I was going to say, I appreciated the comments about finding Unitarian Universalism. One of the things that I like to tell people is that newcomers, sometimes long-term members too, but is like you can come in with all your baggage, all your stuff from wherever, but if 5 years from now you're in exactly the same place you are when you got here, we have failed you, right? We hope that you will grow and heal. So,
One more, and this will be it. Peg.
Every time I come to services, I leave here feeling like I found true north on this compass again, because our world is so wishy-washy in every single direction. And if you're listening to all that's going on out there, it's really hard to sort out, where do I really live in my heart, in my mind? I don't have any doubt when I leave here. I mean, most of the time I don't have a doubt out there either, but I never have any doubt when I leave here. So thank you.
Thank you, Peg.
we have a benediction that comes from Elena Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long and we can bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice and in our daily lives and in the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Join us now for coffee and fellowship in the back of the room until 11. If you want a bit more to eat and more time to visit, there's a sign-up sheet on the table near the bookcases to coordinate with others who'd like to go out for brunch. The Zoom room will stay open for 20 minutes.